we now have the Tribe Tower.
Oh, this thing is going to be
What?
hopefully really fun. It's got a few different aspects to it, and I'm going to be really honest about the metagame implications of this one. We want to encourage a lot more non-cave bases. This structure is the Tribe Tower, and it can only be built with a direct line of sight to the sky and in no cave volume whatsoever. It is a tribe-wide buffing structure. As long as this thing stays up, it will give your entire tribe some pretty cool upgrades. I'm going to jump right into what those are. And you can only have one, by the way. You can only have one per tribe. For every day, and that's a real world day, not an in-game day, that a tribe tower is up, you get a stacking 1% experience gain for everything in your tribe. Your survivors, your creatures, your chibis, any 1% per day up to a maximum of 20%. And if you can keep one up for 30 days, every 30 days you keep one up, you get plus 3% element drops from bosses up to a maximum of 15%. Now, the plan is for this thing to be placed down, not quite as cool as this image that we have here, and for it to get cooler as these rewards stack up. The really interesting thing about this that, I mean, at least to me, is this thing is enormous. That is 8 foundations tall. The bottom is, I don't remember off the top of my head if it's a 6x6 bottom or an 8x8 bottom, but it is huge. So if you're going to try and enclose one of these, it's going to take, I mean, you know, big tribes are going to be able to do it, but if you don't have line of sight to the sky, it doesn't function. This structure cannot be repaired, ever. It will also keep and display how long it has been up visually for anyone looking at it without having to worry about, you know, pulling out your spyglass or your binoculars or your magnifying glass. Anything. If you can see this thing, you'll be able to see how long it's been up. It's sort of a giant FU to every tribe around.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we have inevitably, this is of course a PvP only comment here because you can't destroy other people's things on PvE. If you destroy one of these, anyone who can see your name will also see a little placard, dominated tribe of whatever. Really to convince people that we want you to PvP and we understand your cave bases are great. We'd love to see some more overland PvP bases again. We don't often build structures that are heavily incentivized for the largest tribes, because normally the largest tribes are going to be able to do anything we want them to do. That's just the nature of our game. This is definitely one where we're like, the PvP aspect is to get even the bigger tribes jumping in on this. This will require for upkeep an Apex trophy every 12 hours. Nice. If you really want the big buffs, the big element buffs that we're giving off of this, or you want those experience buffs, then you're gonna have to take down Apex creatures, get their trophies, and keep this thing protected and alive.
So it's going to shift definitely PvP, but if a PvE server builds this, do they get the same buff?
They absolutely do. It's still going to give the tribe-wide experience gain, and you'll still be able to get that bonus element from bosses. It's not only on PvP servers. This will absolutely 100% still be a very useful structure to have on PvE. This is just something that we are specifically using to encourage less cave-based PvP on those servers.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see that will this introduce and completely turn it on its head.
The Titans did overturn
that. Yeah, right. Yeah,
everyone said no. I'm going underground.
They really did. That was the moment.
Those big monsters suck.
Yeah.
But we're going to be using that same tech to make sure that this thing can be decorated by players in really interesting ways. It's going to be very fun to see all of the new creative ways players take this structure and make them look very different with the new system. I really want to talk about the new system for decorating both this tribe tower and the vehicles, but we're still going through a couple of versions of ways to do this because we want to make sure that the tech works well and that it's not, there's not visual bugs or anything. So the exact features of that we're going to be putting in are not final yet. We are definitely going to be allowing players to, as an example, one thing we're definitely going to be doing, take some of your like melee weapons or other similar decorations and put them all over these in interesting ways. We really wanted to give this DLC a feeling of ramshackle, post-apocalyptic, like Mad Maxy, Waterworldy for those of you who like that movie. We are also going to make sure that all of our boss trophies or any sort of trophies that you can get from the game are going to be able to be prominently displayed on this thing. Yeah, just like you're going to be able to put a line or a scattering or a column of boss heads to show, not only do we have this up, not only has it survived, but look, we're going to put all of our successes, all of our achievements up here.
There's one thing I want to say related to this stuff as well, is that obviously this one structure won't suddenly change the meta of the game. People are going to still be building in caves and stuff, but we're hoping that it kind of like engagement outside of caves and gives people a reason to go, screw around with some other tribes on different servers. And part of the motivation for displaying the numbers on the structure is that like it's bragging rights, right? Like which tribe can keep their tower up the longest.
Oh yes, the fire emitted at the top. These the amount of pomp and circumstance that this thing is going to have is going to grow as you unlock more stacks of the different buffs, and that giant flame at the top will appear once you finally get the 30-day buff.
And can you build upon this structure or around?
Yeah.
You're going to be able to snap foundations to its base, but you will not be able to completely cover it. You'll always be vulnerable at the very least from above.
If you want it to work, at least.
That's a good point. If you want to, you can cover it up, and then it will deactivate all of your buffs and reset you back to 0 days. If you want to do that, you can.
Have a really cool looking structure inside your really big building.
I think something to note as well is that, we haven't typically tried to implement structures in a way that's targeting something in the meta that we're interested in this way. So this is probably going to be pretty iterative, where we see once we ship it live whether we need to adjust the percentages, the time it takes, certain values related to it, just like everything else. And something else that's important to note is that this isn't the only thing that's coming with Wasteland Wars that is addressing, PvP combat outside of caves. Not the only thing we're considering in the kind of like long-term development of the game.
Cool.
I've seen a couple people mention in chat that technically speaking, all of Aberration is a cave volume. For instances like that, we will be making sure you can build these on any map. We'll have to sort of finagle what the placement restrictions are, because if we're gonna say you can't put it in a cave and it has to have line of sight to the sky, that basically means you can't build it on Aberration. So we're gonna have to come up with we're gonna have to implement a different set of restrictions. Once again, we don't expect anyone to abandon the cave meta because of this, but we just expect an additional base. And I'm gonna repeat something I said earlier: this thing cannot be repaired ever at all. So if players come in and do chip damage and you're defending it and you fight off the attack and it's taken 30% of its health as damage, it's just gonna sit there at 30% of its health damage until the next attack. I've seen this question come up a couple times. Will the tower buff gains from element veins? No, this is a specific boss related buff. This is just the rewards for defeating a boss.